The alarm clock showed 3:47 a.m. when Lisa's eyes snapped open. She had been having the same nightmare for weeks now, the one where she opened her laptop to find yet another rejection email. This time, though, today was different. Today was the day that could change everything. 6 months ago, Lisa thought she had her life figured out. She worked at a small advertising agency downtown. Nothing fancy, but it paid the bills and gave her enough to grab coffee with friends on weekends. Then the company downsized. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal, they assured her. But when you're sitting in your car in the parking lot with a cardboard box of your desk belongings, everything feels personal. The first month without work felt almost like a vacation. She slept in, caught up on shows she'd been meaning to watch, and told herself she'd find something better soon. The second month brought the first wave of worry when her savings account dipped below what made her comfortable. By month 3, she was applying to jobs she never would have considered before. Month 4 brought the collection calls. Month 5 made her consider moving back in with her parents, a thought that made her stomach turn. Now, 6 months later, Lisa was down to her last $200. Her rent was due in a week, and her landlord had already called twice about last month's late payment. She'd sold her jewelry, her guitar, and even her grandmother's antique lamp just to keep the lights on. The fridge contained leftover takeout from 3 days ago, and a jar of peanut butter that was supposed to last until she found work. But today was different because yesterday, her phone had finally rung with good news. "Hello, is this Lisa Rodriguez?" the voice had asked. It was professional, crisp, and exactly what she'd been hoping to hear for months. "Yes, this is Lisa. This is Jennifer calling from Hartwell Marketing Group. We received your application for the marketing coordinator position, and we'd like to schedule an interview." Lisa had to sit down. Hartwell Marketing Group wasn't just any company. They were the biggest marketing firm in the city, with offices in 3 states and clients that included major brands everyone knew. She'd applied there on a whim, never really believing they'd call back. "That would be wonderful," Lisa managed to say, trying to keep her voice steady. "Would tomorrow at 10 a.m. work for you?" Tomorrow. Today. In about 6 hours, after hanging up, Lisa had spent the entire afternoon and evening preparing. She researched every page of their website, memorized the names of their biggest clients, and even looked up recent news articles about the company. She practiced her answers to common interview questions until she could recite them perfectly. This wasn't just another interview. This was her shot at getting her life back on track. The position paid almost double what her old job had offered. It came with health benefits, vacation time, and room to grow within the company. More than that, it was the kind of job that could lead somewhere, the kind of job she could build a career around instead of just paying bills. Lisa got up and walked to her closet, where her interview outfit hung ready. She'd bought the navy blue blazer and matching pants 2 years ago for another interview, back when spending money on work clothes didn't require checking her bank balance first. She'd steamed out every wrinkle the night before and polished her black shoes until they shined. Her portfolio sat on the kitchen table, filled with examples of her best work from her previous job and the freelance projects she'd managed to pick up over the past few months. She'd arranged everything perfectly, with clean copies of her resume and a list of references who had promised to give her glowing recommendations. The interview was scheduled for 10 a.m. at their downtown office. Lisa had already mapped out her route, accounting for traffic and even potential subway delays. She planned to arrive 15 minutes early, just enough time to collect herself and review her notes one more time, without seeming overeager. She made coffee with the last of her grounds and sat at her small kitchen table, going through her preparation one final time. She knew their company history, their mission statement, and their recent marketing campaigns. She had thoughtful questions prepared about the company culture and growth opportunities. She even had examples ready of how her skills could contribute to their current projects. As the sun began to rise, Lisa felt a mix of nerves and excitement she hadn't experienced in months. This was it. This was her chance to prove that the past 6 months of struggle had been worth it. All those rejection emails, all those nights lying awake worrying about money, all those moments of doubt, they had led to this opportunity. She thought about calling her mom to tell her about the interview, but decided to wait until after. Her parents had been supportive, but she could hear the worry in their voices every time they talked. They'd offered to help with money, but Lisa knew they were already stretching their retirement savings to help her younger brother with college expenses. By 7 a.m., Lisa was dressed and ready. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror and practiced her smile one more time. "You can do this," she told her reflection. "You're qualified, you're prepared, and you deserve this job." The morning news played in the background as she gathered her things. The weather forecast called for clear skies and mild temperatures, perfect for walking to the interview without worrying about rain or extreme heat. Even the universe seemed to be cooperating. Lisa checked her phone for the 100th time to make sure she had the right address and time. Hartwell Marketing Group, 10 a.m., 47th floor of the Riverside building downtown. She'd even called yesterday to confirm the building's entrance procedures and visitor parking options. Her neighbor's dog barked in the hallway, reminding her of the normal world continuing around her, while she prepared for what felt like the most important morning of her adult life. Other people were getting ready for another regular day at work. But for Lisa, today could be the day that changed everything. She grabbed her portfolio, checked that she had her Metro card, and took one last look around her apartment. The next time she came home, she might be employed again. She might have hope again. She might be able to sleep through the night without worrying about money. Lisa locked her door and headed toward the elevator, her heart beating faster with each step. 6 months of uncertainty were about to end, one way or another. She had done everything possible to prepare. She looked professional, she knew their business, and she genuinely wanted to work for them. Walking toward the subway station, Lisa felt more confident than she had in months. The morning air was crisp and the city was coming alive around her. People hurried past with coffee cups and newspapers, everyone heading toward their own version of purpose. Today was the day her luck would finally turn around. Lisa stepped out of the subway station at 9:15 a.m., giving herself plenty of time to walk the 6 blocks to the Riverside building. The morning rush was in full swing with people streaming past her on the sidewalks, everyone focused on getting to their destinations. She felt good about her timing and her preparation. Everything was going according to plan. The city felt different today. Maybe it was her mood, or maybe it was just that she hadn't been downtown during morning rush hour in months. The energy was infectious. Street vendors were setting up their coffee carts. Business people walked briskly while talking on phones, and the whole place buzzed with purpose. Soon, Lisa thought, she'd be part of this daily rhythm again. She checked her phone. 9:22 a.m. Perfect. The Riverside building was just 3 blocks away, and she could see its glass tower reflecting the morning sun. Her portfolio felt secure under her arm, and she'd already reviewed her talking points one final time on the subway. She was as ready as she'd ever be. As Lisa turned onto Madison Street, she noticed a small crowd gathered near the entrance of Murphy's Corner Store, a tiny grocery shop squeezed between a dry cleaner and a sandwich shop. People were walking around something on the sidewalk, some glancing down but most just stepping aside and continuing on their way. Lisa's first instinct was to do the same. She had an interview to get to after all. But something made her slow down. An elderly man was sitting on the ground, leaning against the brick wall of the store. He wasn't asking for money or holding a sign. He just looked lost. His gray hair was neatly combed, and his clothes, while old, were clean and well-maintained. He wore a brown cardigan that reminded Lisa of her grandfather, and his hands shook slightly as he tried to steady himself against the wall. Lisa glanced at her phone again. 9:27 a.m. She still had time, but not much to spare. The smart thing to do would be to keep walking. Someone else would help him. Someone who wasn't on their way to the most important job interview of their life. But as she started to walk past, the man looked up at her. His eyes were a gentle blue, and they held a kind of quiet desperation that stopped Lisa in her tracks. He wasn't young, probably in his 70s, and something about the way he sat there made her think of her own grandfather, who had passed away 2 years earlier. "Sir, are you okay?" Lisa found herself asking, even as a voice in her head reminded her about the time. The man tried to smile, but it came out shaky. "I'm not sure," he said quietly. "I was walking to the bus stop and I got so dizzy. Had to sit down." Lisa looked around. The other people on the street continued their morning routines, stepping around them like they were part of the sidewalk furniture. A woman in a business suit talked loudly into her Bluetooth headset as she passed. A jogger altered his path slightly but never broke stride. Everyone had somewhere to be, something important to do. "Do you need me to call someone?" Lisa asked, kneeling down beside him. Her navy blazer touched the sidewalk, but she didn't care. I don't want to be a bother, the man said. I just need a minute to catch my breath. Lisa checked her phone. 9:31 a.m. The Riverside building was still 3 blocks away, and she needed to check in with security, get to the 47th floor, and compose herself before the interview. But looking at this man, she couldn't just walk away. What's your name? She asked. Walter, he replied. Walter Chen. I was just trying to get to the bus stop on 5th Street to go see my daughter. She's a doctor at Memorial Hospital. Lisa noticed that Walter's hands weren't just shaking from age. They were trembling in a way that suggested something was wrong. His breathing seemed labored, and when she looked closer, she could see a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the cool morning air. Walter, I think you might need medical attention, Lisa said gently. Can I call an ambulance for you? Walter's eyes widened with worry. Oh no, I can't afford that. Those rides cost so much money. I just need to get to my daughter. She'll know what to do. Lisa felt her heart sink. She understood that worry about money all too well. What's your daughter's name? Maybe I can call her instead. Dr. Linda Chen. She works in the emergency department at Memorial. Walter reached into his jacket pocket with shaking hands and pulled out an old flip phone. Her number is in here, but I can't seem to work this thing right now. My hands won't stop shaking. Lisa took the phone and found Dr. Chen's number in the contacts. As she dialed, she glanced at her own phone again. 9:35 a.m. She was cutting it very close now. The interview was in 25 minutes, and she still needed to get there, go through building security, and make her way to the 47th floor. Memorial Hospital Emergency Department. This is Dr. Chen, a voice answered after 2 rings. Dr. Chen, my name is Lisa Rodriguez. I'm here with your father, Walter. He's sitting on a sidewalk downtown and doesn't seem to be feeling well. Oh my goodness, is he okay? Where are you? Lisa gave her the address and described Walter's symptoms. Dr. Chen asked to speak to her father, and Lisa held the phone to his ear. She could hear the concern in the daughter's voice, even though she couldn't make out the words. After the call, Walter looked relieved but still worried. She's coming to get me, but she said it might take 30 minutes with the traffic. She's in the middle of her shift. Lisa looked at her phone. 38 a.m. If she left right now and ran, she might still make it to her interview on time. It would be close, but possible. Walter had someone coming for him. She had done the right thing by calling his daughter. She could leave with a clear conscience. But looking at Walter sitting there on the cold sidewalk, still trembling and pale, Lisa couldn't bring herself to walk away. What if something happened to him in those 30 minutes? What if he got worse? She thought about her grandfather again, and how she would have hoped someone would stay with him if he had been in this situation. Walter, would you like me to wait with you until your daughter gets here? The words came out of her mouth before she could stop them. You're very kind, but don't you have somewhere to be? You look like you're dressed for something important. Lisa thought about the interview, about the job that could solve all her financial problems, about the 6 months of struggle that had led to this opportunity. Then she looked at Walter's grateful but worried face and made a decision that surprised even her. Nothing more important than making sure you're safe, she said, and meant it. She sat down on the sidewalk beside him, her interview outfit be damned. At 9:40 a.m., as her phone showed missed call notifications that she assumed were from Hartwell Marketing Group, Lisa Rodriguez chose to be exactly where she was needed most. At 10:15 a.m., Lisa's phone buzzed with yet another call from Hartwell Marketing Group. She declined it, just like she had the previous 2 calls. Her stomach churned as she watched the time tick by, but she couldn't bring herself to leave Walter sitting alone on the sidewalk. His color had improved slightly, but he still seemed unsteady. You should answer that, Walter said, noticing her phone. It might be important, Lisa forced a smile. I'm right where I need to be. But inside, she felt like she was watching her future slip away with every passing minute. The interview had started 15 minutes ago. By now, Jennifer from Hartwell Marketing Group had probably called her name in the waiting room, waited a few minutes, then moved on to the next candidate. Lisa could picture it perfectly, the disappointed look, the note in her file about being unreliable, the opportunity vanishing like smoke. 25 minutes later, Dr. Linda Chen arrived in a taxi looking frazzled but relieved. She was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and the same gentle demeanor as her father. She immediately knelt down beside Walter, checking his pulse and asking him questions while Lisa stepped back to give them space. "Dad, you scared me," Dr. Chen said, helping Walter to his feet. "We're going straight to the hospital to get you checked out." Walter looked steadier now and some color had returned to his cheeks. "I feel much better. This young lady stayed with me the whole time. I don't know what I would have done without her." Dr. Chen turned to Lisa with genuine gratitude. "I can't thank you enough. I was so worried when you called. Not many people would stop to help a stranger, especially someone who clearly has somewhere important to be." She glanced at Lisa's professional outfit. "Anyone would have done the same thing," Lisa said, though she knew that wasn't true. She'd watched dozens of people walk past Walter without a second glance. "No, they wouldn't have," Dr. Chen said firmly. "Trust me, I see people at their worst and their best in the emergency room. What you did today was special." She pulled out her business card and handed it to Lisa. "Please call me. I'd like to do something to thank you properly." Lisa took the card, though she felt numb. "Just make sure Walter's okay. That's thanks enough." As the taxi pulled away with Walter and his daughter, Lisa stood alone on the sidewalk, the reality of what had just happened hitting her like a physical blow. It was 10:47 a.m. The interview was over. The job was gone. 6 months of unemployment had just stretched into an indefinite future because she had chosen to sit on a sidewalk with a stranger. Her phone rang again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. "Hello, is this Lisa Rodriguez?" The voice was professional but cold. "Yes, this is Lisa. This is Jennifer from Hartwell Marketing Group. You missed your interview this morning." Lisa closed her eyes. "I know, I'm so sorry. There was an emergency and I couldn't—" "Ms. Rodriguez, we scheduled this interview at your convenience. We had a full panel waiting for you, including senior executives who rearranged their schedules to meet with you. I understand, and I apologize. Is there any way we could reschedule? I can explain what happened." The silence on the other end stretched for what felt like forever. "I'm afraid the position has been filled. We can't work with candidates who don't prioritize their commitments to our company." The line went dead. Lisa stared at her phone, feeling like she might throw up. She had just lost the best job opportunity she'd had in months, possibly years. The position that could have solved her financial problems, given her health insurance, and restored her confidence was gone. She started walking toward the subway station, each step feeling heavier than the last. The morning rush had ended and the streets were quieter now. The energy and optimism she'd felt just 2 hours earlier had completely evaporated. She passed the Riverside building where she should have been sitting in a conference room, impressing executives with her marketing ideas. Instead, she was heading home with nothing to show for her morning, except a wrinkled blazer and business card from a doctor she'd probably never see again. On the subway ride home, Lisa replayed the morning over and over in her mind. What if she had just called 911 and kept walking? What if she had waited with Walter for just a few minutes and then left? What if she had chosen differently? The questions tormented her as the train carried her away from downtown and back to her neighborhood. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend Amy. "How did the interview go? I'm sure you nailed it." Lisa stared at the message, not sure how to respond. How do you explain that you threw away your future for a stranger? How do you admit that you might have made the biggest mistake of your life? She typed back, "It didn't work out. I'll call you later." When Lisa got back to her apartment, she sat on her couch, still wearing her interview clothes, and stared at the wall. The silence felt overwhelming after the noise and energy of the city. Her portfolio sat on the coffee table where she'd left it, full of work samples that no one would see. Her carefully prepared answers to interview questions echoed uselessly in her head. The worst part wasn't just losing this job. It was knowing that her reputation might be damaged. In the marketing world, especially in a city like this, word traveled fast. If Hartwell Marketing Group told other companies that she was unreliable, it could hurt her. Chances at future opportunities. Lisa changed into comfortable clothes and made herself a cup of tea, using one of the last tea bags in her cabinet. Her bank account balance flashed through her mind. $147.33. Rent was due in 5 days. Her landlord had already been patient with her, but his patience wasn't infinite. She thought about calling her parents, but the idea of explaining what happened made her feel even worse. They would be supportive, of course, but she could already imagine the worry in their voices. They'd offer to help with money again, and she'd have to decide whether her pride was worth more than her ability to keep her apartment. The business card from Dr. Chen sat on her kitchen counter. Lisa picked it up and turned it over in her hands. Dr. Linda Chen, Chief of Emergency Medicine, Memorial Hospital. She seemed nice enough, but what could a doctor do for an unemployed marketing professional? Their worlds were completely different. As the afternoon wore on, Lisa's initial shock gave way to a deeper kind of regret. She kept thinking about Walter's grateful smile and his daughter's relief, and while those memories warmed her heart, they didn't pay her bills. She had 6 months of evidence that good intentions didn't translate into job opportunities. The rational part of her mind knew she had done the right thing. Walter could have been having a medical emergency. He needed help, and she was the only person who stopped. But the practical part of her mind, the part that worried about rent and groceries and health insurance, wondered if doing the right thing was a luxury she couldn't afford. By evening, Lisa had made a decision. Tomorrow she would start her job search all over again. She would apply to every position she was even remotely qualified for. She would network, follow up on old contacts, and do whatever it took to find work. The morning's choice had cost her dearly, but she couldn't change it now. What she didn't know was that sometimes the universe keeps score in ways we can't see, and that helping Walter Chen would turn out to be the most important thing she'd ever done. 3 days had passed since the interview disaster, and Lisa was deep into what she called survival mode. She'd already applied to 15 different jobs online, including positions she was overqualified for, and some she wasn't sure she could handle. Desperation had a way of expanding your idea of what was possible. Her laptop sat open on her small kitchen table, surrounded by empty coffee cups and crumpled papers with notes about various companies. She'd been at it since 7 a.m., scrolling through job boards and trying to craft personalized cover letters for each application. The rejection from Hartwell Marketing Group still stung, but she couldn't afford to dwell on it. The phone rang at 2:30 p.m., interrupting her concentration as she filled out yet another online application. The number wasn't familiar, but after 6 months of job hunting, Lisa had learned to answer every call. You never knew which one might be your next opportunity. Hello, this is Lisa. Hi Lisa, this is Dr. Linda Chen. We met on Monday morning when you helped my father. Lisa sat up straighter. She'd been thinking about Walter on and off for the past few days, wondering how he was doing. Dr. Chen, hi. How is Walter? Is he okay? He's doing much better, thank you. We ran some tests and found that his blood sugar had dropped dangerously low. If you hadn't stayed with him... Linda paused. Well, let's just say it could have been very serious. You may have saved his life. The words hit Lisa harder than she expected. She'd been so focused on what helping Walter had cost her that she hadn't fully considered what might have happened if she'd walked away. I'm so glad he's all right. That's all that matters. Actually, I was hoping we could meet for coffee. I'd like to thank you properly, and there's something I'd like to discuss with you. Lisa glanced at her laptop screen where another job application waited half-finished. She didn't have money for coffee shop drinks, but she couldn't exactly explain that. That's very kind of you, but really, you don't need to thank me. Please, I insist. Are you free this afternoon? There's a nice place called Cafe Luna on Elm Street. My treat, of course. An hour later, Lisa found herself sitting across from Dr. Chen in a cozy coffee shop, filled with the afternoon crowd of freelancers and students. Linda had ordered them both lattes and a plate of pastries that Lisa tried not to attack too eagerly, despite the fact that she'd skipped lunch to save money. I've been thinking about Monday morning nonstop, Linda said, stirring her coffee. Not just because of what happened to my father, but because of what you did. In my line of work, I see a lot of people. I see them when they're scared, when they're in pain, when they're at their most vulnerable. And I've learned to recognize character pretty quickly. Lisa felt uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, they wouldn't have. I watched the security footage from the store across the street. Do you know how many people walked past my father that morning before you stopped? 47. I counted them. The number shocked Lisa. She'd known other people had passed by, but she hadn't realized it was that many. Linda leaned forward. That's why I wanted to meet with you. My father told me you were dressed for something important that morning. A job interview, he guessed. Lisa's cheeks flushed. It was nothing. It didn't work out anyway. Because you stayed with him? There was no point in lying. Yeah, but it's okay. There will be other opportunities. Linda was quiet for a moment, studying Lisa's face. What kind of work do you do? Marketing. Or I did anyway. I've been looking for a new position for a while now. Lisa tried to keep her voice light, but she could hear the strain in it. Tell me about your experience. For the next 20 minutes, Lisa found herself opening up to this relative stranger in a way she hadn't expected. Maybe it was Linda's warm manner, or maybe it was just the relief of talking to someone who seemed genuinely interested. She told her about her previous job, her skills in digital marketing and campaign development, and even some of the freelance projects she'd worked on during her unemployment. Linda listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about Lisa's experience with social media marketing, her thoughts on targeting different demographics, and her ideas about healthcare marketing specifically. It felt less like casual conversation and more like an interview. Lisa, can I ask you something personal? Linda said finally. Sure. What are your thoughts on working for a company that actually makes a difference in people's lives? It was an interesting question. I think that would be amazing. I mean, I've worked on campaigns for restaurants and retail stores, and that was fine. But to know that your work was actually helping people? That would be incredible, Linda smiled. I thought you might say that. You see, there's something I haven't told you about myself. Yes, I'm a doctor, but I'm also the chief marketing officer for a company called Life Tech Solutions. Lisa's eyes widened. She'd heard of Life Tech Solutions. They developed medical devices and health monitoring technology. It was a growing company with a reputation for innovation. We're a medical technology company, Linda continued. We create devices that help doctors monitor patients remotely, apps that help people manage chronic conditions, and tools that make healthcare more accessible. It's challenging work because we're not just selling products. We're trying to save lives and improve quality of life. That sounds incredible, Lisa said, and she meant it. We've been looking for a new marketing director for the past 3 months, someone who understands digital marketing, someone who can help us reach the people who need our products most, but also someone who understands our mission. We need someone with technical skills, yes, but more importantly, we need someone with heart. Lisa felt her pulse quicken. This couldn't be going where she thought it was going. The thing is, Linda continued, we've interviewed dozens of candidates, people with impressive resumes, years of experience, fancy degrees from top schools, but none of them felt right. They understood the technical side, but they didn't understand the human side. They saw it as just another job, another company to add to their resume. Linda paused to take a sip of her coffee. Then I met you. I watched you give up something important to help a stranger. I watched you sit on a dirty sidewalk in your interview clothes because an elderly man needed someone to care about him. And I thought, this is the kind of person we need. Lisa's heart was racing now. Dr. Chen, are you? I'm offering you a job, Lisa, marketing director at Life Tech Solutions. The salary is competitive, more than what most traditional marketing firms offer because we believe in investing in people who believe in our mission. Full benefits, equity options, and the chance to work on campaigns that genuinely matter. Lisa stared at her, speechless. 3 days ago, she'd been sitting in this same neighborhood, convinced she'd ruined her future. Now a stranger was offering her exactly the kind of opportunity she'd only dreamed about. But you don't even know if I'm qualified, Lisa managed to say. Linda smiled. I've spent the last 3 days researching your background. I looked up your previous work, called your old boss for a reference, and even tracked down some of the clients you worked with. Everyone said the same thing. You're talented, reliable, and you care about the quality of your work. You did all that? When someone saves your father's life, you pay attention to who they are. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. This is our offer letter. Take your time to think about it, but I hope you'll say yes. We need someone like you, Lisa. Someone who understands that the most important part of any job isn't what you do, but why you do it. As Lisa looked at the folder in front of her, she realized that sitting on a sidewalk with Walter hadn't cost her her future. It had led her to it. Lisa stared at the offer letter for the 3rd time that evening, still unable to believe it was real. The salary was more than she'd ever imagined earning. The benefits package included health insurance, dental, vision, and even a company wellness program. But what excited her most was the work itself, creating marketing campaigns for medical devices that would actually help people live better lives. She'd called Linda that same afternoon to accept the position, her voice shaking with gratitude and excitement. Linda had laughed warmly and said, "Welcome to the LifeTech family, Lisa." I have a feeling you're going to love it here." The next morning, Lisa walked into the LifeTech Solutions office building with a mixture of nerves and anticipation. The modern glass structure was nothing like the cramped advertising agency where she'd worked before. The lobby featured a wall display showing their products in action, devices monitoring patients' vital signs, apps helping diabetics track their blood sugar, and wearable technology that could detect early signs of heart problems. Linda met her at the reception desk, looking professional in her white coat with a LifeTech ID badge clipped to her pocket. "Ready for your first day?" she asked with a warm smile. "More than ready," Lisa replied, and she meant it. The first few weeks at LifeTech were a whirlwind of learning. Lisa met with engineers who explained how their devices worked, sat in on product development meetings, and studied market research about their target customers. But what struck her most was the atmosphere. Everyone she met seemed genuinely passionate about their work. This wasn't just a job for them, it was a mission. Her first major project was developing a campaign for a new device that helped elderly patients monitor their heart rhythm at home. As Lisa worked on the marketing strategy, she kept thinking about Walter. She understood now why this product mattered. It wasn't just about convenience or cost savings, it was about giving people like Walter the ability to stay healthy and independent while giving their families peace of mind. "You're thinking about someone specific, aren't you?" asked David, one of the product engineers, during a brainstorming session. "How did you know?" Lisa asked. "Because the best marketing comes from understanding real people with real needs. Who are you thinking about?" Lisa told the team about Walter, about that morning on the sidewalk, and about how scary it must have been for him to not know what was happening to his body. As she spoke, she could see the team members nodding, understanding exactly why this product mattered. "That's it," said Rebecca, their lead designer. "That's the story we need to tell. Not just the technical specs, but the human story, the peace of mind, the independence, the family connections." The campaign Lisa developed around that insight became one of LifeTech's most successful launches. Pre-orders exceeded expectations by 300%. And more importantly, the customer feedback was overwhelmingly positive. People weren't just buying a device. They were buying security, confidence, and the ability to take control of their health. Linda called Lisa into her office after the campaign results came in. "I want you to know that the board has been incredibly impressed with your work. In 6 months, you've brought a perspective to our marketing that we've been missing." "Thank you," Lisa said. "But honestly, this job has changed me as much as I hope I've changed the marketing." "How so?" Lisa thought for a moment. "Before, I was just trying to convince people to buy things. Now I'm trying to help people live better lives. It makes every day feel meaningful." Linda smiled. "That's exactly what we hoped would happen. Actually, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. We're expanding our marketing department, and I'd like you to consider taking on a leadership role, marketing director for our new consumer health division." The promotion came with another significant salary increase and the opportunity to build her own team. But more than that, it meant Lisa would be leading campaigns for products that would reach millions of people who needed better access to healthcare technology. As the months passed, Lisa found herself becoming not just successful at work, but genuinely fulfilled in a way she'd never experienced before. She led campaigns for a diabetes management app that helped thousands of people better control their condition. She worked on marketing for a device that helped detect early signs of stroke, potentially saving countless lives. Each project felt like it mattered, but the most unexpected change in Lisa's life wasn't professional. It was personal. Walter had become like a grandfather to her, and Linda had become one of her closest friends. The three of them had dinner together once a month, usually at Walter's apartment, where he would cook traditional Chinese dishes and tell stories about his life. "You know," Walter said during one of these dinners, "I've been thinking about that morning we met. I was so embarrassed at the time, sitting on that sidewalk needing help. But now I realize it was one of the best things that ever happened to me." "How do you figure that?" Lisa asked, serving herself more of Walter's amazing dumplings. "Because it brought you into our lives. And because it showed me that there are still good people in the world. People who will stop and help a stranger even when it costs them something important." Linda raised her glass of tea. "To unexpected meetings and the kindness of strangers." They toasted, and Lisa felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the tea. 6 months earlier, she'd been unemployed, desperate and convinced that the world was working against her. Now she had a job she loved, financial security, and a chosen family that meant more to her than any paycheck. But perhaps the most profound change was in how Lisa saw the world. She'd learned that sometimes the biggest opportunities come disguised as inconveniences, that choosing compassion over self-interest doesn't always cost you. Sometimes it rewards you in ways you never could have imagined. At work, Lisa made sure to hire people who shared those values. When she interviewed candidates for her team, she didn't just ask about their marketing experience. She asked about times they'd helped others, about what motivated them beyond money, about whether they understood that their work could make a real difference in people's lives. One day, almost a year after that fateful morning, Lisa was walking to work when she saw a young man helping an elderly woman who had dropped her groceries. Other people hurried past, but this young man had stopped to help her pick everything up and was now carrying her bags to her car. Lisa smiled, remembering her own choice to stop and help. She walked over to them. "Excuse me," she said to the young man. "I work for a medical technology company, and we're always looking for people with your kind of character. Do you happen to be looking for work?" The young man looked surprised. "Actually, I just graduated college and I've been job hunting for months." Lisa handed him her business card. "Call me Monday. Let's talk." As she continued to work, Lisa realized that Walter had been right. That morning on the sidewalk had been one of the best things that ever happened to her. Not because it led to a better job, though it had. Not because it brought financial security, though it did that too. But because it taught her that the most important moments in life often come when we choose to care about someone other than ourselves. And in a world that often seemed focused on individual success and personal gain, Lisa had learned that sometimes the best way to help yourself is to help someone else first. The universe, she discovered, has a way of keeping score, and kindness always gets rewarded even when we least expect it.